maximizing your negotiation leverage using power sources. We often hear the complaint in our sales training workshops that the customers have all the power and that they really only care about price. Is that really true? If that's what you really believe, then your only option is to lower your prices. And you'd better be the cheapest option or you're going to lose. The other option is to work hard to develop a stronger value proposition than the competition and convince yourself and the customer that you have a unique offering that solves the customer's problem in ways that no other solution can. Why else would the customers choose your product or solution? Selling has been defined as the transfer of confidence. When everything else is said and done, you need to convince yourself that you have the best solution and then transfer that confidence to the customer, enthusiastically and clearly. If you can't, you should expect to get embroiled in a price war. In the pressure to get the deal done, and especially if you haven't convinced yourself of the superior solution, you may often give the customer more power than the situation warrants. They often have the power of the final decision, and they often hold that over our head. It may sound like, do what we want, lower prices, provide additional services, accept our terms, etc., or we'll go somewhere else. Yes, you'll often need to negotiate on key items, but our goal is to reframe the conversation so that we're on more equal ground. One tactic for doing this is to brainstorm all the reasons that you have more power than you realize, and perhaps the customer is limited in their power in ways you haven't considered. In preparing to improve your negotiation leverage, it's helpful to ask yourself a few pointed questions. Why do I have more power than I think? And how is the customer's power limited? Why would they need to go with us and our solution? The customer isn't going to offer to disclose these issues to you. It's your job to do our research, leverage customer coaches, ask great questions, and figure out the 2 or 3 sources of power that can help you build confidence and support your negotiation position. When considering these sources, it's helpful to ask the questions, compared to what? In other words, what are the customer's alternatives? Go to the competition, do it themselves, do nothing. And how do you compare to these alternatives? Some examples of unique capabilities that give us more power include you're the best solution or you have unique features that they need. You're going to help them win in their situation. You have the ability to help them meet deadlines, so they need it now and only you can deliver. You have delivery capabilities that are going to help them mitigate risk. Or there may be issues with the competition. Competition maybe failed to deliver in previous examples. And you have the ability to tailor or customize the solution and address their unique business needs. Finally, you might have a customer relationship that's allowed you to listen and earn their business, or more industry knowledge or expertise that allows you to compete more effectively. For existing customers where you're already doing business, there are a few additional power sources that come into play, but you need to be very careful about when and how you use this leverage. You don't want to abuse your relationship, but it's also helpful to consider why they went with you in the first place and why it's probably easier, cheaper, and more convenient for them to continue buying from you as opposed to going and bringing in someone else. That's why it's so critical to continue to deliver exceptional service to existing accounts. Typically, they'd like to continue with you unless you give them a reason to go elsewhere. Some of the power sources with existing customers include the cost and difficulty of them switching to another vendor, which includes time and the effort of vetting other vendors. Also, existing contracts that may already be in place, and it's easier to use an existing vendor. Also, the status quo. It's really too much effort to switch in some cases, and support for a previous decision. In other words, they don't want to look bad for switching to another vendor. By spending the time brainstorming and considering the unique components of your offering compared to the other alternatives, you can bolster your position and develop more confidence in your solution. You need to first convince yourself that there's no solution that's more relevant or more valuable to the customer than what you're offering, and then work very hard to help the customer see that you're the only viable option that meets their unique needs. If you're the only option available that truly solves their problem, price becomes much less important. Thank you.